strategically, can we all agree that that story was held till the week prior to the election because that's the bomb they were going to drop to flip the voting at the last minute? We all know that would have been intentional. It's not like they just got the story last minute. If I'm a skeptic, I'm assuming New York Post had that story for a while and they were timing on when to drop it. That's my skepticism. I may be wrong. So, and in politics, stories matter. On timing matters on when they drop it. So he essentially affected the election. So Dorsey essentially affected the election. The fact that he's saying it now, I think he's more doing this to say, don't come bothering me for 2024.
I don't disagree with you. So I will say that I don't necessarily agree that the Wall Street Journal, Washington Times, whoever broke the story, I'm not saying that they dropped the story when they dropped it specifically to change the direction of the election. They dropped it at a very intentional time, most likely to get maximum readers, maximum views of their advertisement, maximum, press coverage and secondary viral coverage, not to sway an election. But what I will also say is that there's only one person, or not one person, there's one entity that has the responsibility for the way the elections turned out, and that's the American people. If you stood in line and you voted, you own the vote that you cast that day. Zuckerberg did not change the course of the election. Did he have a tool that could have been used to sway it? Sure. But ultimately, somebody went and stood in line, cast a vote, and that's the person who owns the responsibility for the outcome right now. That's the person who owns the responsibility for every single outcome. That's why you have to vote. It's why you have the right to vote. We just have to understand, especially if you look at 2020. 2020 was a freakish year.
I have a hard time processing that. I have a very hard time processing that. So you're telling me the person who voted has the ultimate responsibility for the results?
For the vote they cast.
For the vote they cast, I understand. But the journalists have a responsibility for digging up and getting the information to the people so they can read it before voting to be as educated as possible.
Journalists.
And these virtual governments such as Facebook, Twitter, YouTube have to permit that information to be released to the public so they can make the most educated vote, which they prevented from happening. So you can't, I have a hard time saying in this case that it's the voters' responsibility on the way they voted. No, they did not have access to the entire information. This article says 79% say truthful coverage of Hunter Biden's laptop would have changed the 2020 election. And the numbers they gave is majority in both parties, 89% of Republicans, which is fine. That makes, I'm surprised it's not 99% of Republicans, but 89% of Republicans. 61% of Democrats said they believe the laptop is real, along with 74% of independents. So if the difference between it coming out a week versus a week after that, that's a very big difference right
Let me
there.
show you a quick spy tool.
Sure.
All right. So what's our, I'm sorry, brother.
Tyler,
do me a favor. Go to this article and then look up the specific survey. I did this after I saw this article. I want to show you exactly how spies
New
approach it.
Jersey, I looked at it. Yeah, I saw that. That's the first thing I did.
This is what, New York Post?
Did you see the population that they tested?
1,226. 1,226.
Do you know what a statistical relevant population is?
What's that?
3,000.
Okay.
So this is not a statistically relevant representation of a survey result. They could essentially have called 1,022 old Republicans in a single district to ask them this question and get this result. Surveys are polls are notoriously difficult.
I trust two polls.
Is this one of them?
No, that's not one of them.
So this is what I'm saying.
And what I tell you yesterday, by the way, what I said to you yesterday when I said look up the poll, who's it by? We looked at New Jersey. I said I tell you which two polls I'll pay attention to.
Pew or
Gallup. Those two I'll pay attention to them. I'm not going past. Everything else I'll like. Hey, CNN poll, right? Fox poll.
Yep.
No, I fully get it.
So these guys, when I looked at this, that's when I was like, well, they can shape their pace.
Forget about these guys. Just the four of us talking right now, and whoever else that's watching this, right? You mean to tell me the story not being released didn't impact?
The story did. So I want to make sure that we're aligning responsibility in the right place.
Please.
Zuckerberg runs a business. He does not run a second government, a federal, a commercial government, a shadow government. He runs a business. The journalists have a journalistic responsibility to report the facts. Amen, 1,000% true. Journalism is dying. Journalism, some people say, is fully dead. And the journalists who write for most of these mainstream news sources hate the way that the editors handle their journalistic responsibilities, because the editor does not have a journalistic responsibility like the journalist does. So they're forced to produce at a certain speed before they can do what's needed to meet journalistic requirements. And then information is controlled by a business that wants to spend its time being, protective of its own long-term business interests. I'm sure you get that. And then what's left is the human being, the person, the American on the other side, is scrolling through Facebook, only reading what they see. And we have given that person, that American, has got the permission now to think that it's okay to get your news from Facebook. It's not okay to get your news from Facebook. It's not okay to get your news from just one source of anything.
But what do you mean it's not okay to get your news from Facebook, though? Facebook isn't a platform where I get my news from because they write it. Facebook is where stories go viral.
Correct.
Twitter is where stories go viral.
Correct.
For you to prevent a very damaging story to not go viral, for the public to know before they vote, knowing this is a very corrupt situation here, you're essentially manipulating the election. And then the world paid a price for it. Because if the election was possibly in a different way, say somebody else becomes president, Russia probably doesn't attack Ukraine. Lives could have been saved there. We probably don't lose $83 billion of equipment in Afghanistan because that would have been handled in a different way. And, economy would probably be in a slightly different place. Inflation would be in a different place. Many things would be in a different place if it wasn't for that. And the American people today are paying a price for it. Yesterday, a poll came out. I don't know if you saw the poll or not, on who they're saying the leading candidate is for presidency. Did you see that or no?
I did.
It's a story by Fox. Okay, so a story came out. What page is that on? Page 7. So you've seen this. I'll read it to you. So page 7. This is yesterday. No, is it page 7? Do you know which one I'm looking at, Tyler, or no?
Yeah. Bottom of 6, you're talking about Bernie Sanders?
No, it's not that one. It's another one where it says Bernie Sanders is the leading candidate.
Yeah.
It's
leading
bottom of
polls.
Yeah, it's page 6.
Is it page 6?
Yeah.
Okay, so if I go
It's
to
a
page,
Hill story. Highest
yeah,
favorability.
so Sanders has highest favorability among possible 2024 contender poll. This is a Hill story. This is not a Fox story or CNN. Sanders clocked in with the highest favorability rating amongst the list of 23 potential 2024 presidential contenders, according to a new USA Today poll. 46% of the respondents say they had at least a somewhat favorable view towards Sanders, while 41% said they had an unfavorable opinion. President Biden had the second highest at rating of 43%, although his unfavorability was notably higher than Sanders at 52%. And then, Trump clocked in with the same rating as Biden. So, again, polls, USA Today, we know which side they're going to lean. Of course, they're going to want a Sanders, because it's going to be
Sample
more.
size, yep.
Yeah, they're going to want to be able to use that part as well. But at the same time, I think when you're saying Facebook, Twitter, these guys don't have a responsibility. I think they have a responsibility of allowing the message to be released. The populace, what the populace, you and I, the citizens, the voters, have a responsibility for is not to jump to conclusion, is to do our own due diligence before voting. But that the responsibility is for them. So releasing of the information is on Facebook. They got to release that part. Okay?
The information is out there regardless of whether it's on
Yeah,
Facebook.
I get
They could
that.
just get it from a different news source.
I know, bro, but I can post the same video clip on Instagram, on Facebook, on Twitter, on YouTube, on TikTok, and all of a sudden one of them, like for example, TikTok, I'll tell you a perfect situation. If you go back, look at my TikTok account. I was posting videos and I was getting 100 views, 600,000 views, 100,000 views, 800,000 views, 5 million views, 2.1 million views, 1.8 million views. I post 2 clips about China. Find the clip after. It's been 50 videos since that clip. Find the clip after that if any one of them have ever done 10,000 views. And I'm like, okay, content is content. One of the clips posted by somebody else got 6 million views of the same thing I said on a smaller platform, posted it, but I put it on mine. It got 11,000 views. So virality is about the gods of viral, to allow an article to go viral. Today, when an article is going viral, social media, they know when the trigger's back in. Uh-oh, look at this. This thing's going viral. What is it? Okay, let it go. Uh-oh, this thing's going viral. Oh, yeah, let it go. Uh-oh, this thing's going viral. Shut it down, shut it down, shut it down, shut it down, shut it down. It goes like this. I've seen videos on November 22nd, 5 years ago. I did an interview with Jim Jenkins. And Jim Jenkins was one of the 4 guys that held John F. Kennedy's brain. He was in the autopsy room. He stayed quiet for 50 years. Christian man, quiet man, never wanted to talk to anybody. He was afraid because they told him, if you say anything, we're going to take the Navy money away from you. So this guy doesn't want to talk. Finally, he says, I want to talk about it. But he comes in. If you ever see the interview, he was so nervous. We put it out on November 22nd, which is the assassination day. The video goes like this. Boom, boom, boom. Then suddenly it went like this.
Right.
That doesn't happen.
What platform?
YouTube. That doesn't happen. It went like this, and then it stayed like this. Okay? So what does that mean? Wait a minute. Hold this thing back. A person on the back end, when I look at my creative studios, I can see I've never in the history of my 1,800 videos, I've ever seen a video do that. Why is this happening? Sometimes these types of things happen because these platforms have the ability to prevent these types of topics
Absolutely.
to become conversation.
Yeah.
So that's my only concern with Facebook. And I think I want to be able to be an optimist. And I think what Zuck is trying to say is, guys, next time around FBI, we're telling the story and we're not getting in the way. I think that's what he's saying. Now, whether he'll follow through with that or not, we have no idea.
So if you like this clip and you want to watch another one, click right here. And if you want to watch the entire podcast, click right here.